So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube? Dave here from Z4 Games. Bringing you, as you can see, a pure Unchained deck profile. Now, there's already a couple of changes that I want to make in the deck, but I thought what I would do is I will run you through this, and then as we go, I will explain the changes that I want to make and the reasoning behind it, just so that give you a bit more information when building the actual deck, because this is that I really want to play, and I can also go through the reason why I've decided to go more pure than why mixing with Dracos. There's a couple of nice little touches out there with True Kings as well. But I've tried to go more direct and actually go a bit more straightforward, in the sense that I've seen a lot of nice little text on a couple of profiles out there. I've just tried to keep it simple, tried to keep it effective to what it actually is, and go from there. But before we get started, please do hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on anything, and give us a big thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed it. So, with that little bit out of the way, let's go through the profile. So we start off with one of the twins, YUGIOH. This is the water monster one, and it basically has a quick effect. You target one card you control. Oh, there you go. Quick effect, target one card you control, destroy it. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except theme monsters. For 9 times out of 10, that's all you'll want to be going into, whether you go first or second. And then if this card on the field is destroyed by card effect except itself by its own effect or by battle, you can special summon one Unchained monster from your hand or deck except itself. Only use the effect once per turn. So basically, if you had 2 of these on board, you won't be able to trigger its effect. But if it gets destroyed by battle or by an additional card effect like the other twin, you'll be able to special summon an Unchained monster from your deck. We then play, of course, triple Aurora, the fire twin. Now, this one, again, is the special summon itself. So you target one card you control. You cannot special monsters for the rest of the turn except theme monsters. Also, destroy that targeted card. And if you do, special summon this card from your hand. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, except by its own effect, you can special summon one Unchained monster from your hand or deck except himself. Only use each effect once per turn, and that is a hard once per turn. Now, something you'll see more often in the pure version than in the like Draco version, I play triple Unchained Soul of Disaster. Now, it is questionable whether to play this at 3 or 2. There are a couple of times throughout testing where I have kind of seen one of my opening hand and I don't really want it there. However, some of the other cards I am playing in this deck, it's not the end of the world if I do open up one of these. Now, if I open up 2, 3, then that's just terrible luck and it sucks something bad. If you wanted to, you could play a Lore in here, because we do play a couple of other Dark Monsters. We play 9 Dark Monsters in the main deck, but again, you don't really want to be getting rid of it. This will be one of the cards I would cut and knock it down 1. And in doing so, I would then put in further stun cards. So I am considering the Artifact Engine. I am also considering some additional hand traps like Fet Veiler, but I don't want to overclog the deck. Anyway, this card is still very, very good. So it gains 300 attack for each Unchained card in your graveyard. So very rare that you'll be going in attack with this guy. But you target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Immediately after this effect resolves, link summon one Dark Link monster using only this card you control and that opponent's monster. Now, this would have been amazing if it was quick effect, or if it was when this card is summoned, or if this card is summoned. That would have been a hell of a lot better. But still very, very good, because it allows you to link climb during your turn should they put a monster on board. Obviously, the idea of this deck is to go first and be more control-based, and that's where this effect kind of falters. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one Unchained monster in your graveyard, except himself, and special summon it. So you can actually bring back the link monsters, which is very, very cool. Gives you a bit more recyclability as well. Then a card that I'm not seeing a lot of people play, and it might just be that they don't have them, or there might be a specific reason. And if you have a specific reason why you don't play them, then please let me know. But I'm main decking triple Phantasme. Now, I know this is a questionable, not a questionable card. You could play without it if you wanted to. Now, if you were to play without it, if you wanted to, I would then say put in the rest of the engine. So there's a couple of cards in here already that you would probably take out these three, put in 3 artifact monsters, and then put 3 of the artifact sanctum as well. The only issue with artifacts that I don't really like is they're very, very particular. Now, the only good thing about that is if you do end up drawing into your moral attack or your scythe, you can set them and then trigger the effects with the water twin to then pop it during your opponent's turn, get a summon, and then lock your opponent out of the extra deck. So that's a very, very good option, which is something I'm highly considering. Even if you don't play the trap, but I still think the trap's very, very cool as well, because again, you chain it off of the water twin. So you go water twin, target the artifact sanctum, chain the artifact sanctum. And I believe if I've got the correct wording in my head, you'll then get the pop off of the sanctum as well. But that's just another kind of interaction that I am highly considering. It does rely on the deck going first, because if you open up any of those cards going second, they are a lot more dead than alive. We've then got triple Ash Blossom, just the most powerful hand trap right now. If you wanted to, you could put Veilers in here, you could put Ghost Ogres, anything like that. And that is another control variant that I would be considering, is if you take out your Phantasmes, or if you do drop the Disasters down and take out a couple of the other cards in the deck, that's where you go and put those cards in as well. So it does give you a bit more versatility, and it does give you a bit more kind of options to disrupt your opponent should you need to. And then 3 really, really cool cards. I love these cards. So we've got Tour Guide of the Underworld, but then we've got Dark Spirit of Banishment and Dark Spirit of Malice. I love these cards. So, so good. So Malice is when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, then target 1 level 8 Fiend monster in your graveyard, which Disaster is, special summon it, but its effects are negated if a level 8 Fiend monster or monsters is sent to your graveyard while this card is in the graveyard, except during a damage step, you can add this card back to your hand, so you get to loop it nice and easily. Now, Banishment is the one I love even more. So if your opponent's monster attacks, at the start of the damage step, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, then target 1 level 8 Fiend monster in your graveyard. Special summon it, but its effects are negated. And if you do, change the attack target to it and perform damage calculation. If a level 8 Fiend monster or monsters is sent through your graveyard while this card is in the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can add this card from your hand, add this card to your hand, and you can only use the effect once per turn. So, whereas Malice just basically revives, if it was like a revive and negate, it would be incredibly busted. But Banishment actually causes your opponent to do something negative. So both of these have a positive effect on you by reviving the level 8 Fiend monsters, but Banishment is the only one that makes your opponent then go, wow, I've now actually lost something by allowing this effect to kind of go off, in a sense. And they can't do a lot about it, because it is at the start of the damage step, so I do not believe that they can actually activate Call by the Grave, and that really, really can stun them massively. I'm considering I could even put Banishment to 2, but the whole way that this is the way that this works is you normal summon Tour Guide. Tour Guide would then summon one of these guys from your deck. You then link these off, and then you get to revive the Banishment, or at some point when you get into your link monsters or you go into your twins, you can then start to revive those by getting the level 8 into the graveyard, Disaster into the graveyard. And then there's an amazing interaction with Cherubini, which obviously you go Tour Guide, maybe summon Dark Spirit, link those 2 into Cherubini. Cherubini then sends Malice, and then should you have the ability to get Disaster on board, get rid of Disaster, you then get to add these back to your hand. So there's a lot of recurrence and a lot of recyclability, which is why we only need to play them at 1. Then one card that I was curious why no one else was playing, and that is Extravagance. Now, I can understand it is very, very risky playing this, because it does mean that your extra deck does suffer, which is the one issue that I am currently having when building the extra deck, is there's so many cards I want to include. Now, if I want to include those cards, I can have a lot more control if I take Extravagance out, because the majority of my extra deck now will have to be multiples of cards that I may not need as many copies of, just so I don't banish them all off of Extravagance. So that's the negative side of it. The positive side is Extravagance gives you a +2, or technically a +1, replacing itself, and that actually can help you unbrick hands. So it's whether you kind of work with a draw engine in the deck, which is what you would kind of replace the Extravagances with, or whether you go for a more kind of search-focused element. What I mean by that is by taking these 3 cards out, you would then go for something that is a little bit more consistent. So you'd go for stuff like trap tricks, or you'd go for stuff like additional traps. Just something that has a bit more control, that if you do draw it, it's not the end of the world. You can still play with a slightly bricked hand. Extravagance obviously is the alternative to go, all right, I've got a slightly bricked hand, I'm going to play Extravagance, I'm going to draw 2 new cards. Are they going to unbrick me? Hopefully they do, that's the whole point of playing Extravagance, but I've had to sacrifice some of my extra deck in order to do so. So that's one thing that I'm considering. At the moment, Extravagance is working for me, touch wood, but should, through further testing, I find that this is a negative effect on the deck, then I will take it out and change it around. But again, it is something that I haven't seen many people play, so getting your guys' thoughts on it would be very, very interesting to see. We're going to have triple Abominations Prison. Love this card. The artwork is stunning. It is the roader for the deck, so add 1 Unchained card, so spell, trap, or monster, as long as it has Unchained in its name, from your deck to your hand. If this set card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon 1 Unchained monster from your deck. Only use the effect once per turn. Then, because I like to break my opponent's boards as much as possible, triple Super Poly. Again, this is another kind of fallout effect from Extravagance, is to make sure you're covering as many ranges of Super Poly targets in your extra deck. That can take up quite a lot of space, and then if you're having to play multiple versions of them, you can imagine how clogged the extra deck does, or how restricted the variety in your extra deck does become. So something to consider, but Super Poly right now at 3 is one of the most powerful board breaking cards, because your opponent cannot respond to it. It's one of the very few technical spell speed 4 cards in the game that can really, really cause your opponent issue. And what I love about this card is, if you play it right, you can play it going both first and second. I mean, my opponent is going to be more worried about my Unchained Link to taking away one of their monsters than they are about my set cards. They're probably going to think my set cards are my traps. And then they're going to play and play and play. They're going to try and negate, maybe with an Impermanence, negate my Link 2, think that they're safe, and then you go, bam, there's my Super Poly. I'm going to cause you a heck of a lot of issues. One card that I will definitely be cutting down, and I've got it at 3 at the moment, is Wailing of the Unchained. This does not need to be at 3 at all. So straight away, at least one of these will be going. Now, basically what Wailing does is, if you link summon an Unchained Link monster, you can target 1 card in the field, destroy it. If this set card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon 1 Unchained monster from your deck. So, again, you can only use the effects once per turn. This is there for an extender, which is why at the moment it's at 3, but I have found that it's very, very cloggy. Now, going into the Link 4, again, very rarely you're going to do it on a hugely consistent basis and go into it multiple times. You're popping 3 cards off of that already. If you've got this, you're then popping 4 cards. The issue is, it does target. A lot of cards right now do not like being targeted, so they do have a bit of target protection. So you've got to be very, very careful with the consistency and the way you want to build it. So again, this is another easy takeout, in my opinion, for something like the Artifact engine. The one thing you do suffer with is you need your consistent of your Unchained cards, and until we get the new support in Ignition Assault, for now, this is what we're working with. I've then got 2 Called by the Graves. Now, I usually like to play triple Called by the Graves, but I can actually understand why most people are now playing it at 2. It can get very, very cloggy. If you open up 2 copies of Called by the Grave, that is 2 cards that are stopping your combos going off. Now, if your opponent has already gone off, it's not that useful. If they haven't gone off yet, it can be very, very good for them, and 9 times very, very bad for them, sorry. But if you're just being able to set, okay, I've set 2 Called by the Graves, maybe I pop 1 to bring up my water and go into the Link 2. It is still a form of disruption. 2 just works a lot better than 3. 3 at this moment in time, like I said, if you open up 2 copies of it, it can be quite detrimental. If you open up with 1 of them out of your 2, then of course you've still got plays to make, and it gives you 4 more cards in your hand to extend your board. Then, a card that I really want to see as a foil is Escape of the Unchained. I love the artwork of this. It looks so cool. And the effect is pretty badass as well. So you target 1 Unchained monster you control and 1 card on the field. So it can be one of your cards if you want. Destroy both. If this set card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon 1 Unchained monster from your deck. Only use each effect once per turn. Now again, the only issue is it targets. Still a very, very good card. And again, another one that I want to see in in foil is Abominable, Chamber of the Unchained. So this one is basically its own personal Call by the Grave. Not Call by the Grave, sorry, Call of the Haunted, or Back to the Front in a sense. It doesn't restrict it to going into a certain position. So it does mean you can bring back any Unchained monster. So you special summon one Unchained monster from your hand or graveyard. If this set card is destroyed by card effect, you special summon one Unchained monster from your deck. Only use the effects once per turn. And then the last trap cards, because it can't get called by the grave, is triple Impermanence. Really, really like this card. Putting it in a column and then being able to turn a column off as well. Some people can forget where it's been activated, and that's happened to me multiple times, is if you put an Imperm in the center column, a lot of people just naturally put a card to the center when they're activating a card. And then when you go, yeah, Imperm was activated in that column, they just go, and it starts to fall apart a little bit. Okay, so that was the main deck. I'll get onto the extra deck just shortly. I'm just going to quickly go through why I chose... Actually, I'll do that at the end. I'll do that at the end. Go through why I chose to go with Pure. Okay, so the main extra deck right now is, again, still up for questions. There's a couple of cards that I'm not 100% set on right now. And I would love to get your guys' thoughts on those as we go through it. But we'll start off with the Unchained, and at this moment in time, we do play 2 Unchained Abomination. Really, really like this card. The reason I'm playing 2 is because of Extravagance. It can technically be played at 1. 2+ link monsters, including a link monster. If a card or cards on the field is destroyed by card effect, except itself, and except during the damage step, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. When another monster is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. During the end phase, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. You can only use each effect once per turn. 4K, Link 4 3K beta, a very, very powerful card. But once you've resolved it once, it's very, very rare that your opponent's going to have 4 cards or 3 cards that you can just start going off and popping. Very, very rare. Because by that time, if your opponent has set cards on the field or put monsters on the field, they've either got some form of built-in protection or the set cards they've already activated. They're not going to have them set there. The only thing that you could possibly think of would be if they set an evenly match, which is, again, a very, very rare occurrence. So it'll be interesting. It can be played at 1. It's only being played at 2 because of Extravagance right now. We then played double Unchained Soul of Anguish. So this is 2 monsters including a Unchained Soul monster. So it does have to have an Unchained Soul monster in order to link climb with it. But the idea is you go to your link 2 into this. You can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls immediately after this effect resolves. Link summon 1 dark link monster except himself. By using only that opponent's monster and this card, so that you can get you into a link 4 or a certain type of link 4, and of course it can go you back into a link 2. By using only your opponent's monster and this card you control as material. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, target 1 fiend monster in your graveyard except himself and add it to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. We then play triple Unchained Soul of Rage. Again, the artwork on this is absolutely unreal. So, 2 monsters including an Unchained Soul monster, which is why we've got Disaster. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can target 1 face-up special summoned monster your opponent controls. Immediately after this effect resolves, link summon 1 dark link monster except himself, by using only that opponent's monster and this card you control as material. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 fiend monster in your graveyard, except himself, and add it to your hand. Only use the effect once per turn. So you can see the fact that it lets you summon a dark link monster. It gives you the ability to actually unicorn during your opponent's turn, which is awesome, because not only have you disrupted then and gone, right, I'm going to take your monster, you've then gone, oh, I'm going to bounce your monster too. So, or bounce an additional card as well. So that's a very, very good interaction. Otherwise, you're going to be linking out into your link 3 Unchained, and then you kind of want to protect him in order to get him back to your turn to then continue to link off of your opponent's cards. Then the other link monsters we've got the 1 topological Zero Boros. Again, link summoning into this. Dog obviously doesn't like Zero Boros. You're going to link climb into this one. It is a dark monster. It does only require 2 effect monsters, so you are able to do this with the link 3. And then you cannot special summon or set monsters to any extra monster zone this card points to. Gains 200 attack for each banished card. If another monster is special summoned to a zone a link monster points to. So just a link monster points to. If your opponent does that, they are going to screw themselves over. While this monster is on the field, banish all cards on the field. Once per turn during the standby phase of your next turn, after this card was banished by its own effect, special summon this banished card, and then it's going to gain attack for all of the banished cards. It is just an additional deterrent, the exact same as Topological Bomber Dragon. Again, dark can be made, and you actually have your own built-in protection when you use Cherubini, because if Cherubini points to these, anytime somebody gets summoned to a link zone or a zone a link monster points to, Topological will trigger, and Cherubini will protect both those cards. So it's very, very good, very, very powerful, and can cause your opponent a hell of a lot of issues. The only clacks that I have right now is that I am only playing ones of them. I don't want to play more of them, and that is where Extravagance can really come and bite you in the arse. Then of course we've got the one Unicorn, and then one card that I'm not seeing a lot of people play, but some people are as well, is Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Now if this was a dark monster, busted. But when you've got Disaster on board, you do have the ability to get a very, very kind of simple way of getting 2 twins and a Disaster on board. So for example, if you have the Water Twin, use her effect to pop a spell or trap, like an Unchained spell or trap. You then summon the level 8 off of the Water Twin, and then you can summon the Fire one, the Fire Twin off of the trap or spell. Straight away, you've got your 3 link materials, one being a level 7 or higher, to get you into a very, very powerful buster. But the only issue with that is once you've used the effect, you are locked into Fiends. So it's something that you have to kind of step back on and be a bit more controlled with. But it's incredibly easy to get a Disaster on board, especially with your Malice and your Spirit Hand traps. So being able to build that on and then go into this after you've controlled your opponent's board can then give you a battling win con. Now, if you don't want to play Buster or you don't have it because it is stupid expensive right now, unbelievably, then YUGIOH is your other alternative. You can take that and go straight into there. One thing it does lack is it does need a powerful Link 3 monster, because all of the 3Ks come within the Link 4s and above. So it's something to highly consider. Next, oh, it's so good, so good, is Cherubini. Now, Cherubini is 2 level 3 monsters, which is, the only issue is it's very, very specific to get the 2 level 3s on board. Now, it's a fairy, so you can't go into it once you've used your Unchained effect, so you would have to normal summon the water, and then just straight away trying to special summon the fire one locks you into things already. So the only way you get into this is Tour Guide into a spirit and off you go. But when you do that, you then have the ability to send your other spirit. That then allows you to protect this, because you'll have Banishment. Then, if you have the ability to get, like I showed you, a Bomber Dragon and even a Link 2 Unchained, you're protecting this. And then once you go into Link 2 Unchained and you link with your opponent's monster and go here, Topological Bomber Dragon will trigger, Cherubini will trigger to protect, and you just go from there. So you actually have a very, very powerful lock on the opponent's board that's going to constantly protect your monsters while consistently disrupting theirs. I've then got 3 Super Poly targets, Starving Venom, Mud Dragon, and Violet Chimera. Again, 9 out of 10 you're going to be doing this during your opponent's turn, so you've got to be careful that you do all this before you lock yourself into specific cards or darks or fiends or anything like that. But the reason I've gone with these 3 is they can be any 3 Super Poly targets you want. Again, very, very risky with Extravagance, which is why I'm slightly considering taking it out, because I like the variety in the extra deck. Mud Dragon is for the generic rogue. Starving Venom is because you got Thunder Dragons, you got Orcust. Everything's going to be pumping more than 1 dark on board, so it's something that you can heavily, heavily run into. And then Violet Chimera, because I still think that salads are a threat. Now, like I've said, you have the variety in this deck that you could put anything in you wanted to. You can put in the triple-headed Starving Venom or the triple-headed Predator Plant monster if you wanted to. Really, really down to you. And like I said, I'm still juggling around with this extra deck because I do have stuff like YUGIOH Apprentice that I would like to kind of get in there as well. So that is it for the profile. Like I said, throughout the profile, there's a couple of changes that I would like to make. And I'm definitely going to be looking into doing so, just to kind of see what other varieties are out there. And like I said, I want to keep it pure. I really, really do. I just think pure is so much better, in my opinion, than the Dracos. Just because it's... Diagram is great and all for this deck, but you lose the best. The best thing about Dracos is that they can play stuff like Duality, Desires, and they just, when they're going to lose or when they've got no hand advantage, they top deck a Desires, they're back in the game. They fill up their board with at least a monster, plus a diagram, plus 5 set back rows, which are all kind of floodgates. And in order to make the mixture, you have to lose that element of the Draco. So you're losing the best part of the Dracos, and then you're losing the consistency of the Unchained, because there's only so much that you want to be popping and summoning. There's only so many diagrams you want to go diagram, pop the trap, to summon one out, to do this, to do that. There's only so much you want to go with it. And then, like I said, you're losing the floodgate cards as well that you really, really want to play around with. So that's why I've gone with that one. The True King one I'm very, very interested with. The only issue with that is True Kings do rely heavily on trying to get to VFD. So you actually play a heavy True King lineup, which are level 9s, and then when you're comparing them with the level 8 Disaster as well, you're increasing your chance to brick quite massively, and that's something you don't want to be doing. It's fun, and VFD is very, very powerful. You just want to be very, very careful when doing so that you don't overdo it and ultimately just lose more games to bricks than to your actual opponent. Well, I hope this helped. If you do have any questions or any suggestions, please put them down in the comments below. I am more than happy to either answer your questions or attempt to trial out some of your suggestions. I do want to be changing this up. I think there's a couple of little cards, especially stuff like the artifacts I want to consider playing, because I just think artifacting with Aurora and stuff like that could be very, very good. It does obviously lock you into Fiends, so you've got to be careful with the way you play this. And I don't know, it's tough, very, very tough. If I could find a way of getting the artifact engine in, I will go for it. But it does look like, is it the rest of the turn? Yeah, for the rest of the turn. So you'd have to resolve the artifact first and then go into the Unchained Twins. So, like I said, very, very consistent, very, very specific. And very, very kind of, you got to be very, very careful with the way you want to play it and extend this. But I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. I'm going to try and trial them out. Luckily, some of the Unchained cards have actually crashed heavily in price, so it shouldn't be too hard for you guys to pick them up for a bit of fun. And the new card we get in Ignition Assault is obviously going to be very, very good as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. And until next time, guys, as always, happy dueling.